So when I came out to my Christian parents, I felt like they had a lot to say, and I barely had anything to say in reply. And on the one hand, my silence means that I haven't said anything that I regret. But the reason for my silence is because I didn't feel able or equipped to know what to say in reply. So in this module, while it isn't pretty at times, we can see on the page some of these things that people might say in the name of Christianity, and underneath each one of them, a couple responses that might be food for thought in reply. And I'll go through some of the themes that we see on this page. And one of the themes that happened to me so many times was that when I came out, the other person said, well, just don't tell anybody else. And so I tried that, and that meant that I needed to make deception part of my daily diet, and that just made me feel more horrible about myself. And then reflecting on Christianity as a whole, it's not really a faith that encourages us to keep like anything hidden. So saying don't tell anyone is a little bit counterintuitive. Secondly, sometimes when I came out, it was assumed that automatically that meant that I was being promiscuous, that I was choosing to engage in stuff that I had never even considered. And I wish that I would have made more of a connection between myself as a human being and the other straight person, cisgendered person, as a human being. Just because someone declares that they are straight or gay or whatever, that declaration doesn't all of a sudden mean that this person is having sex or doing these behaviors or X, Y, and Z. And so it's the same with all of us human beings. These aspects of our identities and our attractions, it's not something that we're choosing. It's not equal to our behaviors, just like anybody else. A third theme that I came across was that people would question my authenticity in my faith in God or my belief in Jesus. They felt certain that this was a faith issue or a problem with my Christianity. And it makes me think of the book of Job in the Bible, where this poor guy is going through one calamity after another, and his buddies keep saying to him, man, this has to be a faith issue. You know, you must be living wrong. And Job just keeps saying, but I have faith, and I love God, and I serve God. And the moral of that story was that Job was legit. And I think that what that tells me is that we can be confident in our own authentic feelings and motives, and or in your pursuit of Jesus if you're a Christian. And you don't have to justify anything more than that. So these get into some pretty specific reactions and possible replies. But I wanted to introduce you to my advisor, Dr. Christy Kunkel. Super grateful for her time today. And I thought that this would be such a valuable resource to talk through some overarching general rules of thumb to take into these interactions. And since she's focused a lot of her research and a lot of her time working with families navigating differences and challenging conversations, I think that could be really beneficial to all of us here. So Dr. Kunkel, as a communication scholar, particularly someone who works with families, what would be some practical general rules of thumb when going into these interactions that might take this type of turn?
So my tips are pretty simple, actually. So my first tip, and most of these, especially given my own perspective in all of this is the person who's receiving the information from someone who's coming out. So for instance, if Sammy approached me, if you approached me and you gave me this information, how I as a family member, a loved one, would approach receiving that information. So the tips are, number one, to talk along with the person who is sharing the information with me. Number two would be to listen. And number three would be to throw love at it. I'm saying like throw love at it, and I really mean it. When people engage in sharing parts of themselves, who they are, their identity with us, we as the receivers are being given a gift. Even if that information is surprising, and even if parts of it make us worry, wonder, whatever that may be. And so to focus messaging back to the person sharing this with us that focused on love is central. It is of the utmost importance. Now, we know in the literature that when people share information about themselves, such as coming out about one's sexual orientation and their romantic relationships, when they share that with us as their family members, as their loved ones, they report back that our responses are negative. And sometimes that negative is really like, oh, I'm surprised. Or in my own experiences, I know when people have come out to me, a part of me has said to myself, I've known this for a while. how I'm questioning, how will I respond? And those sorts of emotional responses, people are quick to see in us and can perceive negatively. All the more reason why, when I receive the gift of that information, their identity being given to me in this honor, I respond with love. So when in doubt, saying I love you, you can't go wrong. So that's most important. The second most important is to listen. Listening takes a lot of energy. It takes all that we have. So as the receiver of the information, taking it in and listening to understand. I'm a social scientist, so I think about taking in people's data. And when they share things with me, I'm gathering data about them, not just what they say and how they say it, and appreciating the trust they put in me to receive it. And recognizing that we are both human, we're all human, and so the way that they share their intimate parts of themselves with me, that may not come out perfectly either. I love them regardless. And then the third point is to talk along with. So in my active listening of Sammy when she comes out to me, I am engaged with her. That's my role, and it's a big one. I don't have to say a lot. So these kind of work together, right? These tips, I don't have to say a lot. And I wait for the opportunities that she provides for me to join her in conversation, asking me questions. I follow her lead. The way I wrap it up is to convey the love that I feel for her, for you, for this interaction, for what we've done together, what we've created together in this conversation, being present together. That's a perfect way to wrap it up.
Wonderful. So as we think about this module and moving forward in the workshop, what's been so great here is that throughout this workshop, we want to not only be helpful to the senders and receivers in these conversations, but also looking to the audiences of LGBTQ+ members of that community and LGBTQ+ allies. And so we're hoping that bits and pieces of the things that you're experiencing throughout these modules you can take with you, being the senders in these conversations and being the receivers. So we'll see you in the next module to continue moving forward. You're doing great so far.